Hello, everyone. Welcome to this stream on An English View on Porto. I'm your host, Matt, and today we have a big game coming up. Perhaps the game of the weekend, perhaps the game of Europe as a whole. It's the El Classico, Porto versus Benfica, and joining us, we have two guests still awaiting on another one, but we have a common catchphrase once he does come along. So, but in the meantime, we do have a newcomer on the chat channel. It is Mike E from the Mr. Benfica podcast. Welcome to the channel.
How's it going? Thank you for having me here, Matt.
No problem at all. So let's get right into it and start on the Porto side of things. Most recently, played Estoril in a game where I'd said in my short or preview that it doesn't matter what happens, we've just got to get the win ahead of
Yeah.
this game.
Mm-hmm.
And we managed to do it with a correctly predicted 2-1 victory. Probably a 6.8 overall out of 10 in terms of performance. Did enough to win. Didn't see much from Estoril after they scored. And one of the big talking points were the two penalties, both with debatable handball decisions. My feeling on that was it's harsh, maybe not even penalties, but if you're going to give one, then you got to give the other. Simple as that. And I was hearing on Sugar Tuesdays, you guys were debating on the different criteria referees were giving penalties for in the leagues.
Yeah.
And even going beyond the handball rule, it was coming into effect even for Sporting CP and Benfica. And so far since the international break, Porto both sides, in fact, are on a 100% win run. Porto, they've been in good form since drawing at home to Vitória Guimarães. 3 wins on the bounce. And I think at the moment, Martin Anselmi has found his best team, though as referencing back to Sugar Tuesdays, the bench does seem like we don't know our best subs. But we're looking in a fairly good prospect on in regards to this tournament this weekend. Given that we have no Nino to refer to, I'll go straight to you, Mikey. What have you thought of Porto this season and recently?
Well, I mean, they're a club in transition, obviously, or you're a club in transition, obviously. You had a manager that was there for a long time. You had a president that was in charge for a long time. Both of those things have changed. The culture is changing a little bit at the club. Those of us on the outside say for the better. But regardless, it looks like Porto is still looking for their identity a little bit this season, and they're trying to figure out who they are right now. I think they've stabilized under Anselmi. I'm fairly familiar with Martin Anselmi, I had watched him work with Cruz Azul in Liga MX in Mexico before he left for Porto. So I followed the Mexican league. So I was fairly familiar with him. So I was interested to see how he was going to do coming into a completely different footballing culture and bringing his very progressive views on very progressive style of play into a new club that had been very consistent and very strong in their identity for so long. And I think they're starting to play his brand of football now. And it looks like the players are really starting to buy into the manager. They're starting to believe in the manager, and they're starting to do a little bit more in the terms of they're starting to go a little harder for what they're being asked to do. And they've been stable now since, like you said, since the international break. Two victories, two professional victories, I like to call them. They got the job done, like you said. They got the victory, which is what's most important. They didn't leave themselves open for dropping points. They didn't have the result at any risk at any point in those games, and I think they've really stabilized. And I'm really thinking this match this weekend can go in so many different ways. Seeing which type of which identity of each team shows up for this match at the on Sunday. But I think Porto's done their job in most recent times, and it's a process. They're building, and the finished product you won't see until next season at least, and it could take a little time. We saw how long it took Ruben Amorim to build a Sporting team from that was finishing, fourth, and to get them to the title. It didn't happen overnight. There were hurdles along the way, and step by step they went on, believing in their manager, doing what they were asked to, and evolving as a team. And you saw, they bear the fruits of that labor in the next season, and then winning, 2 titles in 3 seasons. So Porto could very well be on the same trajectory.
Yep, and also got to mention that goal Rodrigo Morris scored at the weekend, including a very good 1-2 between him and another Mora, Francisco Mora, and of course the footwork and then the finish, excellent. And but may bring some extra expectation onto Rodrigo Mora, despite only being 17 years old. Yeah. Let's actually, well, you've pretty much given thoughts on the Estoril Porto game. So I have a few questions for Nino if he is to come, but let's go over to the Benfica side of things. What have you thought of Benfica this season?
Oh, it's been a tale. It's been a tale of different seasons almost within the season. It started off poorly. Roger Schmidt gets sacked. Where at one point we enter the pitch in a match 11 points behind Sporting due to having a match in hand. Bruno Lage comes in, stabilizes the team, gets the team back to playing very much reminiscent of his first run as Benfica's manager a couple of seasons ago, goes on a bit of a winning streak and recovers the 8-point deficit, only to lose to Sporting and then lose to Braga the very next week and lose to Casa Pia a few weeks later. And next thing you know, we were back to a 6-point deficit. We've made it up now. And I kind of tease Nino about this because he's big on Sporting, and nobody realized that Sporting were only ahead due to the match in hand. They had a 3-point lead that they were treating like a 6-point lead. So Benfica has played well outside of a couple of, in the calendar year of 2025, it has been pretty good outside of a couple of matches here. The Casa Pia match, completely overmatched against Barcelona in the Champions League, but that's Barcelona. That's in a class of its own. But I think that in the league, we're riding on 8 straight victories now in the league, and this is the real test now, because all of that doesn't really matter once we get to the Classico. You can throw the records and you can throw form out the window, because the two teams are going to take the pitch, and it's going to be those 90 minutes are all that are going to matter in this match. It doesn't matter who's where in the table, who won the last 3 matches, who's dropped points this season, who's on their second manager. All of that goes to the wayside, and the 22 players on the pitch are gonna be completely focused on those 90 minutes and what's there. But I've been pleasantly surprised with the turnaround from Benfica, but part of that is because the expectation, became so low because the start was so poor, and because we'd fallen so far behind Sporting early in the season, that it feels like just a privilege to even be in the race still at this stage, having dropped so many points. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun last 7 rounds of the season here. And, it's anything is possible in this league, I think.
I did have a watch of Gil Vicente versus Benfica. I expected a Benfica win, and it ended up being quite a strong victory. Gil Vicente looked good at the start. It looked balanced, but then once Benfica scored it, he took complete control. We have our first commentator of the day, AD744. Thanks for being here. Welcome. And he is also a Charlotte FC fan.
Oh, excellent. My son is a big Charlotte FC fan. Yeah.
Yeah, thought I'd bring that up. Hence, you've got the scarf
in
the background.
That's my son's scarf. Yep.
Yeah, he's going to be tuning in, probably giving some comments in the first half, and then driving through the second half. But yeah, Gil Vicente game, a very good victory. Then there's the Farenense game, which initially I didn't bother to watch this game because I was expecting a clear victory. And then I saw it was at 3-2 and I was like, huh? I better watch this. And from the bits I saw, Farenense did give themselves a respectable showing. The only other thing I could really pick up from there was maybe they were a bit hard done by from the fact that time wasn't added on from Truban's time wasting despite him getting booked. But yeah, what did you think of Benfica with their last two games? Certainly they didn't make it easy for themselves in that last one on Wednesday.
And usually don't. Benfica's known for not making it easy and for making us suffer through these results. But it started very well, getting out to the 2-0 lead. The team was sharp. They were moving the ball quickly and playing well in transition. Bruno Lage made a critical error, I think, in insisting in starting Renato Sanchez. Renato Sanchez got hurt again. And he really limped through the second 20 minutes of the second half, and control of the match was lost a little bit there. And really playing with 10 players at that point. And then some poor defending on a set piece. And Farense made it 2-1 before halftime and let them back in, which you never want to let it right before halftime with a 2-0 lead. You don't want to let the other team back in, give them that hope. He corrected that at halftime, bringing on Leandro Barreiro and replacing Sanchez. But again, went up 3-1, and then the team just shut off and started thinking about Porto. It seemed like it was about managing for the weekend match. And it showed because they started to stop creating opportunities. They started to try to manage the match in a way to just let the clock run out. And Farense saw that, recognized it, and began to play better. And began to get opportunities of their own. And before you knew it, they had made it 3-2 with time still to go. And it made it a much more nervy ending than it needed to be. But the team did solidify after that, and they did hang on and see out the results, which was the most important. But again, it's been an issue with Benfica switching off after getting a 2-goal lead. It's happened a couple of times now, and it's something that needs to be corrected. But I don't expect in this match this weekend that to happen again, because with the rivalry, with being on the road, being in a difficult environment like in the Dragão, it's not going to be, I don't expect them to turn it off. It's hard to actually lose focus. It's easier to keep your focus in a high stakes match than in these matches against the Rio Aves and the Farenses of the league, because the same exact thing happened 3 weeks ago or 2 rounds ago at Rio Ave. We saw them come back, and then Benfica promptly responded and went back ahead 3-2. So we've got 9 goals in the last 3 matches scored, but we've also conceded 4 in 3 matches. And those came, at times where we should have been controlling the match and not surrendering those kinds of opportunities.
Yeah. As well as the Gil Vicente game, Benfica on the road recently have looked very good, especially when it comes to getting the results. The Rio Ave one also comes to mind as well. Difficult place to go to. We saw Porto having to get a draw there despite some defensive errors. Braga lost there. So it was a good one to get an away win at, and not a lot else to look at too much given the quality of the other teams. Santa Clara was the only other one that came to mind, but Santa Clara are, of course, happy to lose that one. And also, having previewed the reverse fixture with Albert from Longball Football podcast, he explained well the transition from Roger Schmidt to Bruno Lage, and looks like still Bruno Lage is building the team and the tactics based on the players he's got, which for the most part has benefited Benfica. Before we look on to this weekend, there isn't something else I do want to ask you. I never understood the signing of Belotti. I think back to Italy and Roma, and he really hasn't done much. And of course, two of the biggest moments I can remember, him scoring in the penalty shootout of Euro 2020 semi-final against Spain, and of course having his penalty saved from Pickford. What was the reason for going for Belotti, and what is he bringing now?
I believe Belotti was brought in because the plan was to sell Artur Cabral to the Brazilian market, and I think Benfica really thought they were going to sell him to a Palmeiras, maybe not a Palmeiras, but like a Santos or a Corinthians or a team like that in Brazil. There was interest. The deal never got made, but I think the plan was that he was going to go, and Belotti became available. A player that is okay accepting a role coming off the bench at this stage in his career. Player with a large, just a large resume of experience, and a former European champion who's played in big clubs, who was currently, not being used by his current club, Como. He was the third option there, and Benfica having a lot of trouble at the striker position. At the time, Pavlidis was not scoring goals. Cabral was not scoring goals. All the goals were coming from the wide players. And I think they was just to make another option in the attack. And I think it was a player who also could hold up play a little bit more, who had a bit of a better work rate in the front, because the problem I found with Artur Cabral was he's very stagnant. He has to be in the box around the area. He doesn't make any of the diagonal runs. He doesn't hold off defenders on his back very well. He doesn't open space for teammates, and Belotti does all of those things. And I also think it was just probably Rui Costa's contacts in Italy. Someone tipped him that there was a chance to get a player like this, and it has panned out because he's got 2 goals, and although he doesn't get an assist on it, he has a turn against Rio Ave. He receives the ball, turns on the defender, changes the point of attack out to the wing, that results in a cross that ends up being the winning goal for Artur Kuglu. So he's been pivotal. When he's called on, he has done his job. So it has turned out to be a good signing, but I also had my doubts at the time. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand him or the Bruma signing at the end of the January transfer window, and both of them have been key pieces that have led directly to earning points and getting victories in this last 8-match win streak that we're on right now.
To transition into this game itself, I shall ask you, what are the players to look out for, especially for those who aren't as familiar with this Benfica side that are either watching now or on the replay?
The left wing back Alvaro Carreras has been very good, but this year maybe Benfica's most consistent player all season. He's really filled the role that Grimaldo used to fill. It took him a season to really get into the team's system of playing and really get into his comfort level with the team, but he's been very good, both playing wide on the flank or tucking inside a little bit into the left center channel and allowing the player ahead of him, whether it be Bruma, whether it be Artur Kuglu or Sheldrup, to take the flank. They interchange with each other pretty well. Actually, both both wings, if you want to call it, the back and the winger do a good job of interchanging positions with each other, making it a little bit more difficult for defenses to really kind of just bunker in and try to block spaces. They move pretty well. They play pretty well in pairs, both flanks. But I think Carreras has been Benfica's best player, and he unlocks a lot of opportunities down the flank. He delivers the ball fairly well, and I think we'll see Angel Di Maria. I have a hunch that he's going to come off the bench in the second half. I don't think he's going to start from the beginning because he doesn't seem to have his fitness where it needs to be. He was injured. He missed 8 matches, and we saw in the match with Farense, he wasn't quite there yet. And this match, is a match where Benfica, when we have the ball, is going to need to take care of it. And for the brilliance that Di Maria can bring, and he can get you the goal or the assist in the key moments, he also loses a lot of balls because he attempts a lot of dribbles, and he's 36, 37 years. He's on in his age, and he's not beating players as often as he used to. So I think we're going to see him come in later in the match when the Porto backline have been on the pitch for a while and hopefully are a little more tired, and maybe he can be more effective that way. So I think we're going to see him a little bit later, but he may be the catalyst that could be the one where Benfica's hopes could lie on him coming in late in the match, depending where we are in terms of a result at that time.
Yeah, I'll also shout out Kochu. He's been another player that's caught my eye for Benfica. He's been involved in a lot of attacks and goal contributions. Anybody else that you feel is worth a mention?
Yeah, it depends because of some matches. It's been a real good. It's been a diverse attack lately. Vangelis Pavlidis, the striker's on good form right now. He's scoring goals finally. He, for all the criticism that he wasn't scoring goals, he's now here in the tail end of the season approaching the same goal total in all competitions that Gonçalo Ramos had 2 seasons ago under Roger Schmidt when Benfica won the title and when he earned his move to PSG. So quietly, he has built on that goal total, albeit some of it coming from the penalty spot. So, whereas Gonçalo Ramos scored most of his goals, or all of his goals, I should say, off of open play. But yeah, he could be, if he's in one of those days where he's on, that could be a huge benefit for Benfica. Artur Kuglu, who just scored 2 goals against Farense, could also be a catalyst, but he was coming off about 5 matches where he was less than great, and now he's got 3 goals in the last 3 matches. So 2 in this previous match and 1 2 weeks before. So he seems to be finding his form. It all depends what combination of players Bruno Lage wants to put on the pitch and start. I think it's going to be, I think Pavlidis, Carreras, and probably Kokshu are the 3 key guys in Benfica's attack, at least to start the match.
Yeah, and Pavlidis has been in some good goal scoring form on the international stage as well, especially within autumn of last year. Let's have a look at the table as we continue to start previewing the game. Currently, 9 points apart between the 2 sides. Benfica also joint top as things stand. After that win against Estoril, I got a bit giddy. I got quite excited. Then I saw Benfica had a home game to second bottom of the table on Wednesday, and I was like, oh. But still, I suppose theoretically Porto aren't completely out the title race.
Right.
But for now, top 2's the main aim, and let's see how whichever team is in first is at a bit later on in the season. But this is a game that Porto will have to win if they are going to challenge for first or second. And if Benfica can get even a narrow defeat could be all right, because given the head-to-head. I shall get into. We'll have a look at some past fixtures, but in the meantime, I'll start with a tactical question. Last season at the Dragão, part of Benfica's downfall was the fact that Roger Schmidt he's got his way of playing.
Yeah.
And what that can mean is there's certain weak points that are easier to target.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Porto play towards the Benfica fullbacks, which were a weak area, and as a result, Benfica were exploited there. And then this time we've got you've got a more adaptable manager in Bruno Lage. Is there any kind of similar glaring issues that Benfica have this time around that could have the same sort of problems like last season? What are your thoughts in that regard?
While Lige is more flexible, he also his biggest struggle is knowing when to make his substitutions. He either holds on too long sometimes, or he rushes the substitution when it's unnecessary. The right back position is going to be a big question mark because Tomás Araújo is an adapted right back. If he's even healthy to play on Sunday, he's come out of every match he's started either exhausted or injured recently. So we might see our new Swedish player Samuel Dahl get the start there at right back in his place, and if that happens, he was part of the reason Ferenc got back in the game. He's not a natural right back. He's a natural left-sided player, and he's very good going forward. But defensively, he left a little bit to be desired in his positioning. And partly why Ferenc were able to get at least the first goal was because they did attack him down his side of the defense. If Bruno Lage gets substitutions wrong, this could really get ugly again, like last season, like you mentioned. And Benfica really need to keep this match close early on, in my opinion. I think the most important thing is to not be down 2-0. What happened, if I remember correctly, last year was Porto got ahead, and then I think the second goal came fairly quickly after that. And all of a sudden, now you really have to chase the match when you're down 2-0. And that left Benfica open for all kinds of issues the rest of the match, leaving themselves completely exposed and Porto taking advantage. I remember, just from memory, I remember Galeno and Conceição having very good matches and just exploiting all kinds of space that Benfica were leaving open because they were just throwing too much forward to try to get back in the match, and before you knew it was 3-4, 5-0. So that needs to be avoided from Benfica's point of view this time around. And I think the first 10-15 minutes will be crucial because Porto are going to be very, very up. They're going to be in their stadium, like you said, and your president has said that this is the match of the year. This is the most important match of the year that Porto are going to play. And I think they're going to feed off that. I think Porto's going to come in. They're going to be very spirited. They're going to be very motivated. And Benfica are going to have to be intelligent and be able to deal with that until that emotion wears off and we settle into a proper football match. And then if Benfica play the cards right, I think that later on in the match, Benfica's depth could come into play in Benfica's favor if Lage times his substitutions correctly and puts the right, recognizes what the match needs, what the match is calling for at the specific time. If he can do that, if he can make those adjustments properly, then I think Benfica will, at the very least, avoid the type of embarrassment that happened last year. But I think both teams want to win this match. Mathematically, Benfica don't need to win this match, but no Benfica fan is accepting that. the math works out that you could draw the match and still win the rest of them and win the title, but nobody wants to be put on the ropes like that. This is our biggest rival. The Sporting fans don't like to hear this, but Benfica's biggest rival is Porto. It's not Sporting. I always joke, that's my grandfather's rival. That's from another generation. For the last 40 years, the rival is Porto. And both teams want to win very, very much. And I think it's going to come down to Elijah's management of the match. And if he does it right on the day, then Benfica's in a much better place and is that much more likely to get the result we need than if he gets things wrong. Because I think if you give Porto any type of ounce of if you show any vulnerability, Porto can pounce on that. Porto always brings a different level against Benfica. They bring there's a different level of pride, a different just approach to the match, a never say die, do anything. They're willing to die on the pitch to beat Benfica. It's something that I've hated and respected at the same time for all my life, essentially, about Porto. Just the way that in one match against one opponent, you really cannot bet against Porto when they play Benfica in the Dragão. It's going to be a massive task for Benfica to come out with the win. And I think the difference will be in whether or not Lage makes the correct adjustments at the correct times.
Yeah, well, you've definitely you've definitely answered a lot of what would have been my next question, and that's how you would have seen the game panning out. We've got some comments from Sebastian. Must win for Porto, definitely. And also, Matt, do you think it's over for Porto winning the league? Honestly, I thought so. But then when I saw that Sporting CP are tied in first place with Benfica, I don't think it's completely over.
7 rounds is 21 points still to play for. So,
yep, and in the benefit of both of these teams, Sporting CP do have some howlers here and there. So I don't think we can we can definitely not rule out both of our side's chances to win the league. But I realised if we can get top two, then the title's still a prospect.
Yeah, it's the same amount of points right now. Yes.
We've seen from Porto last game, Martin Amselmi, we've seen a bit of a sort of similar to what Gareth Southgate used to do at England, that being sort of playing adaptable formations. In this case, we saw Porto mostly playing a 4-2-3-1, but sometimes teams the fullbacks would turn to wing backs. Eustáquio would drop back and play more of a traditional 3-4-2-1. And I think the midfield, that's going to be kind of a key area to look at, because Benfica, usually with Bruno Lage, you'll see a freer midfield from most of what I've seen. And the two formations that Porto were into playing, sometimes they're in a two-man midfield, sometimes it's with a four, and that part interests me because it could be a game in where Benfica have the benefit in the midfield. And even if Porto do decide to go with a four-man midfield, do the wide players have enough to offer to help Porto? And then, of course, eyes will be on both Samu and Pavlidis, who have proven to be clinical. Before we go into the past few games, I will ask you this: which head-to-head battles do you think will be the most important? That being, so for example, or you could say like Di Maria versus Francisco Moura or Cocu versus Varela, that sort of thing. A Porto versus a Benfica player in a certain area of the pitch. What do you think the key head-to-head or head-to-heads if you have multiple answers?
Yeah, I think you just said it with Cocu and Varela. I think that's a key one because Cocu is usually the linchpin that propels Benfica forward. The vertical pass that leads to the goal very often will come from him. He'll make the vertical pass into the wingers who get into the final third and then deliver the final pass for the shot. But I think that's a really key matchup there, and to see who win. Traditionally, Porto have overpowered Benfica in the midfield. That's always been where Benfica have struggled in these matches. So the fact that Florentino was kept out of the last match so that he wouldn't pick up his fifth yellow card and miss this one, I think he brings a little bit more stability into Benfica's midfield, which allows Cocu to do more of the attack-minded work. Plus, we have Frederick out. I really would say it's the midfield. It's the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 midfield battle really will be where the match is won and lost, depending, like you said, how Anselmi sends out Porto's midfield, how he shapes them to take on Benfica. I think Benfica, there's not a mystery. It's going to be a 3, like you said, in the middle of the park. And I'm wondering to see how Anselmi's going to, what his chess move is going to be after that. If he's going to go with 3 or if he's going to go to 4, if he's going to put 3 at the back or 4 at the back. Because that midfield, it could be any combination of players in that midfield matching up with each other that could really make the difference. It's hard to tell right now. And both teams have gotten results, but not played convincingly or consistently convincingly this season. So it's really hard to pinpoint where I think this match might be really, where the battle might be fought the hardest. I'm very curious to see how this plays out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a look at some of the past fixtures, and this will factor into my prediction, which I'll get onto later. Since around the time I've been like properly following Portuguese football, I've noticed a pattern, and that being that Benfica tends to win in the first half of the season, and Porto wins the second game. And if you look at the 2022-23 season, over here, home form was irrelevant, as we saw both sides winning away. And of course, in the reverse fixture, we saw Benfica win at home and Porto win at their home, and starting to come into effect here as we saw the 4-1 victory for Benfica. And to an extent, that was a thing in last season when Porto, not last season, the last time Porto won the league, it was an away result. So we'll definitely see if that trend does continue. I got a notification. Was just hoping it was Nino. But still no sign from him. But yes, definitely a huge one, a big one. And you alluded to this earlier. This is a game where form goes out the window, and because of the occasion, how big this is, what's at stake, regardless, even if at least one of these teams were in a slump, they can still put us on a show and get better results. We're making some good time. So, any other thoughts before we go to the lineups?
I'll save what I was gonna say for that because I was gonna ask you, but I'll save it when we go to the lineups. I think that I'm thinking, this is a big match for Porto as well. We're talking about Benfica, of course, from where I'm at. I'm always focused on Benfica, but you're in your own race with Sporting Braga right now, who also could drop points this week, or there's a high probability they'll drop points at Alvalade this week. So you have Porto have the opportunity to get into third place as well. And like you said, I think getting second is crucial for both of these teams, even if you don't win the league, because that second Champions League spot is a life ticket for both of these clubs. This is a very heavily pressured match, and I know a lot of Benfica fans are dare I say, are getting overconfident, because I think we walked in the same exact mindset a year ago. I think we came in overconfident. Talked that the Porto that we were afraid of for so many years had lost some of its strength, and that they weren't scary anymore. And then last year we got reminded who Porto are, especially at home. This match can go, I think, in any direction. It could be 3-3. It could be 1-0. It could be 5-3. It could be 5-0 to one of the two teams, if things, depending how the match plays out and who's efficient. I think efficiency is a big thing. I think with both of these teams, we're both used to controlling our league opponents, playing in control of the match. And the difference often for our two clubs when we play everyone else is in winning and losing is our efficiency in front of goal. Either we convert our opportunities and score goals, or we don't. And that, to me, the way the efficiency has swung back and forth this season, I think in both teams, is what makes it such a wild match to try to predict, because it could go in so many different directions. But I think both goalkeepers are good too. Either one of them could have one of those days where they just are not going to allow the ball by them. I would say Diogo Costa is a better goalkeeper, but Trubin also very competent. He made a big save against Farense late to keep it 3-2 on a header. I'm concerned for Trubin. Where I'm concerned, and I've said this before, he gets beat a lot to the near post. I think it has to do with maybe his height. He's a bit taller than most goalkeepers, and he gets beat a lot to the near post. If I know that watching, I'm pretty sure that Martin Anselmi and his staff know that, and I'm curious to see if Porto are going to run set pieces to the near post and try to beat him there, where he's surrendered more goals than he has to his far post. And at the other end, Diogo Costa is so good with the ball at his feet, and I'm wondering if Benfica are going to try to press Porto. And if Benfica do try to press and try to win the ball in high areas, Diogo Costa can be such a good tool to break down that press, because he's so good at distributing the ball with his feet. I'm really, really intrigued how this match is going to play out, because it's so hard to predict.
Yep. Great set of points. And tomorrow I have a Pokemon tournament battle to do, but once that knockout set of games is out the way, then my hype will let loose for this game. It's a big weekend, and including tonight, where I'm doing this stream even with you. But let's have a look at the lineups now.
Sure.
I'm expecting an unchanged side, 10 minimum, something like that, unless there were any injuries. I've not actually checked the suspension stats. I'll start. I'll go and have a look at that now.
Right.
But I saw that I believe it was Rui retweeted. So if you are watching, do share us your thoughts. But the lineup, I will list off for those who aren't sure. That being Diogo Costa in goal, João Mario at right back.
You going with 3 or 4 in the back? You think is Porto going to play with 3 or 4?
I expect it will be adaptable, but I think I'll lean a bit more towards the 4 at the back because that's what we saw last time. And one of the guys on Tuga Tuesday, he's mentioned until the squad odd is back, they're probably gonna do it this way with the formation, the players available. Of course, Nohan Perez, who's 2 yellow cards away from a suspension, and Ivan Marcano in defence, Francisco Moura on the left side. Of course, the 2 fullbacks will be a big part of the adaptability. Varela and Estacio, the Canadian international, they'll be in midfield. Attacking 3, Pepe, Fabio Vieira. He might go into midfield whenever we do transition to a back 3. Rodrigo Moura on the left side and Samu at striker. Having seen the injury suspension list, there's no one that would really there's like under threat of not playing. But one thing I did notice is that on Twitter, Martin Fernandes was getting a lot of hype by Porto's Twitter admin, showing a lot of progress and things. So I think there's a chance that he could start against Benfica, but I think it will probably be João Mario. And side note, after going to England vs Albania and even showing a picture which got over a good 600 plus interactions, I got recognised by the Porto Twitter admin.
There you go.
But I'll throw it over to you now. What do you think, and how do you think Benfica will line up?
Okay, so Trubin will be in goal. I think as long as he's not ruled out, Tomás Araújo will be the right back. Antonio Silva and Nicolas Otamendi as the center backs, and Alvaro Carreras on the left. Midfield 3 will be Florentino Luis with Frederick Auschnitz to one side and Orkan Kokcu to the other. I don't think he's going to play in a double pivot. I think Florentino plays better when he's the more central role. So I think he's going to play the other 2 midfielders in front of him versus playing with 2 with a double pivot and then an attacking mid in front. I think, like I said, I think Di Maria is going to come off the bench. So I think Bruma is going to get the start on one flank and Artur Koglu on the other. And then Pavlidis will be the striker.
Yeah, I can't see anything to disagree with there. And looks like we're going to see the strongest lineups available. So I think the next thing to go over is the predictions. We haven't got like a full house where initially it was supposed to be 4 to go and predict. But I will start with you. What's your prediction for this game?
I think it's still where I was on Tuesday night on Tuga Tuesday. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle. I think Benfica's depth will make the difference in the end, and I think Benfica will win 2-1.
Okay.
But very, very difficultly. It's going to be very difficult to get to that 2-1, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think this is going to be a much closer game than the last two league encounters these two have had.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think we're going to see a very, very close 80 minutes. My prediction, though, I'm going to follow the trend. I'm going to say Porto win this 3-1. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle, and we probably score a third on a counter-attack in the last
I think
5, 10,
both
maybe
teams are more
15
likely to
minutes.
score in transition than they are in building the play up to, which will make it exciting.
Yeah, so I think the third goal will probably come in the last 10 minutes. But that being said, this will not outdo head-to-head because Benfica won the first game 4-1. So though I've gone for a win, I don't think Porto are going to match what Benfica did or even surpass. So if this happens, Porto are going to have to outscore Benfica in points.
I got a question for you. Since you're coming from England, where goal difference is the tiebreaker, how do you feel about head-to-head being the tiebreaker, the first tiebreaker in Portugal? Because it kind of rules out. It kind of can set the tiebreaker up weeks in advance before the season's over, and I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I think I'm trying to remember which one it was, but I believe of the top 4 leagues, most of them do have goal difference, but one of Spain, Germany, or Italy, I can't remember which one it was.
I think it's Spain.
Yeah, that probably would make the most sense. But I think over the course of the season, goal difference makes more sense. But I can definitely see an argument for head-to-head and the fact that there are 3 teams that will usually battle it out for the title, maybe 4 if Braga has one of that seasons. But there's some sense in there, but I think income goal difference works better in a long-term season.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah. So anything else before I ask you the next thing?
No, let's move on.
So yes, Benvedo for coming on, Ike. So yeah, tell the people where they can find you and your platforms.
All right, so I'm most active on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. My handle's right there on the screen at Mike Agostinho at MikeAgostinho. I also have www.mrbenfica.com. I don't update it that often. It's usually just where my podcast episodes can be found quickly, or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the podcast players. If you type it, search Mr. Benfica, I'll come up. My channel will come up.
Yep. Thanks for sharing. Hopefully there's something there for the viewers to enjoy. We have seen some neutrals interact, so certainly there's something for them to get interested into it. And we've heard Rui and Jason encourage their followers to tune into your stuff. So why not I do the same? But yes, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Thanks to all the people who've watched both live and on the replay. It's a huge one. This is the one we've been looking towards for a while. It's going to be fantastic. Hopefully, I even went and bought 6 super box for the day.
I got 6 Sagres for me.
Yeah, I bought 6 for the Sporting CPE game as well. If based on the shut up that was, it was if they had it add larges, I probably would have gone for 4 larges. But I was even thinking about cracking this one open, but given that there is only 2 of us and not much room for me to take a back seat at times, I thought but perhaps not, and that gives me an extra one for Sunday. But
there you go.
yeah, thanks to everyone who's got involved and tuned in. Hopefully you can enjoy the game. It's going to be a tense one for
surely
those involved, playing, supporting, all that good stuff. But yes, all interaction is appreciated. Go follow the links in the description, including Nino's, myself's, Mike's, and my other stuff, including my channel, my Blue Sky, and so on. But yes, thanks for tuning in. We've got a huge one coming up, and in the meantime, Forza Porto.
All right, enjoy the match, everybody.